Okay, let's have a little bit of a think about a psychological technique which is very well covered, but I want to give you some different thoughts about it. It's the area called visualization. Now, people suggest that visualization is a really difficult technique and it has to be trained. It really doesn't. Children do it from a very young age. They're just discouraged from doing it. Think back to your school days. Did you ever look out of the window dreaming about what you'd like to achieve in life? And you're in that dream state, visualizing, using your imagination, when suddenly you were stopped. In my school we had a gentleman called Chalky Woodpecker, and if we were dreaming and visualizing and looking out the window, along came the teacher with Chalky Woodpecker, and we were told to stop that dreaming, get on with the important stuff. What I'm here to suggest is that visualization is a critical element of your psychological strength. Sometimes we live our life and things happen to us, and some things are good and some things are bad, but we can't control that. That's happened. The power of visualization is that you can create anything in your head that you'd like to happen. Now, be careful here. I'm not talking about the US version, you know, the Walt Disney, if you can dream it, you can do it. I don't believe in that. Just because you dream it doesn't mean you can do it, but you may be motivated and you may open some mental pathways to enable you to be more successful. I'll just give you an example, you know. I'm often visualizing and I often think about Kylie, but just because I dream about it doesn't mean it's going to happen. But I think you get what I mean. Dreaming is very important. But let's think about the practical application of visualization. What visualization does is it creates neural pathways, memories if you like, thought patterns, route patterns in your head that enable you to have an experience before you've had an experience. That's the trouble with previewing or looking at the past. It's already happened, it's in your head. With visualization, you can go anywhere. You can create things that have never happened and you can create them in your head. And here's the really good bit. You can do anything you like in your head. Some things that you're not even physically capable of doing, you can imagine yourself doing it. Now the brain can't tell the difference between that which it's experienced and that which it imagines. And if you've ever had a really vibrant dream and woken up in the morning, just for a short period of time, you're not sure whether it was true or not. And that's a form of visualization. Now the great thing is we can decide cognitively, positively, make a choice, today I will do some dreaming. So you can use this in a very practical way. First thing you can do, you can change your thought patterns. If you are feeling a bit down because things aren't going the way you like, you can start imagining a time when things are going the way you like. You can see yourself doing well, being applauded, being cheered, getting the right games, refereeing brilliantly, shaking hands positively. And as you do that, you'll start to feel like you have achieved more. Those patterns start being created in your head. That's one application, changing thought patterns. The second one is reframing. I want you to imagine that you're under real pressure. It's half time. Perhaps you've made some decisions that perhaps weren't as accurate as you may have liked. Now you can go into the second half and you can be thinking, I've made mistakes, or you can imagine the second half before you go out. And you can start thinking, right, let's think in a positive way. Let's imagine that I'm about to have a great half. Let's imagine the cheering of the crowd at the end. Let's imagine that I really come back from this and people say to me, yeah, not sure about your first half, but your second half was spot on, you're accurate, you're good. Now as you do that, you start thinking in a positive way. You start thinking about the future and that which you want to do, not which has happened. So you can change your thought patterns and you can manage pressure. The next thing you can do is you can enable learning. And what I mean by that is that we often learn through our experiences, but we can learn through our imagination. So if you're trying to learn a new skill, for example, if you think about that skill and you visualize that skill, the neural pathway opens up and you're more likely to absorb it and take on that new activity. Finally, and this is a really interesting one, there's very great deal of research that has looked at the way we rehabilitate after injury. And what the research indicates is that if you visualize a joint or a muscle working well, you send messages to that particular muscle. As a result of this, the research indicates there's less muscle atrophy in those people that visualize working a muscle that is injured. So even though you're injured, you can maintain the neural pathway to that muscle and stimulate it through your imagination. And there's a great deal of evidence that shows that if you visualize yourself being healthy, if you visualize yourself running if you've got a bad leg, or moving easily if you have a bad back, the back recovers faster and you get less muscle wastage, which is really, really important. So, a little bit here on visualization, thinking about it as a skill. We use it as dreaming, but dreaming is motivation. Doesn't mean it will happen, that's very important, but it opens up the pathway. Practical application, changing thought patterns, managing and overcoming pressure, particularly when you're coming back from perhaps a poor performance in a first half. Increasing speed of learning, and a really important one, enabling you to come overcoming injury and rehabilitation. So lots of tips and advice as usual on the website. Try visualization and enjoy your refereeing.